Phil Mackey, Tom Pelissero here in the Metrodome after a Vikings 14-10 loss to the Dolphins, and Tom 0-2 to start the season. The absolute worst case scenario for the Vikings has played out.
Yeah, and we all looked at it going into the season. They weren't going to be able to ease in against Cleveland and Detroit. They were going to have to start faster. Miami's an improved football team. They can run the football. Their only real mistake was giving the ball up deep in their own territory, and that led to the Vikings' two-play, one-yard touchdown drive. That's it. Other than that, Miami played the game that they needed to. They stole one here. Now the Vikings are in a position from which only 13 teams since 1990, or 13% of teams since 1990 who have started 0-2 have come back and made the playoffs.
Right.
The odds are stacked against them, and the schedule right after the bye is really tough.
And two times in this game, you had Favre throwing an interception on the goal line. One time, Harvin bobbles a pass, picked off. The other time, Berrien and Favre maybe crossed up some miscommunication. Berrien thought the read was for a fade route in the corner of the end zone. Turns out Favre goes back shoulder, and the cornerback makes the play. 3 interceptions for Favre today, and you could say all 3 of those could have been prevented by either better communication or a better play by the wide receiver.
And now the Vikings are going to argue that if you look at the yardage, you look at the first downs, that they were able to move the ball. You mentioned 2 of them that ended in interceptions down by the goal line. There was another that ended on a 4th down play where they tried to run a stretch play to Adrian Peterson down at the goal line. They have another where Favre gets sacked around the 10-yard line. Another drive ending in the red zone. They got there again and again. They couldn't punch it in. But that's the thing, is that's the difference between good teams and bad teams. Everybody can move the football at one time or another. This is the NFL. Unless you're the Browns or the Seahawks last year, everybody can do it. You have to be able to put the ball in the end zone. The Vikings aren't doing it right now, and they look every bit like a team that still is trying to figure out what their identity is, and they have problems all over the board on offense.
And that's the thing, offensively, you really have seen the last 2 weeks, specifically today, why they miss Sidney Rice so much. That interception over the middle, Berrien double-teamed, doesn't even make a play on the ball. In fairness, he said he was pushed, but that's a play where Rice made that look routine, where he'd at least jump up between 2 defenders, make a play on a ball, and a lot of times make the catch for 40 yards last season.
And I can think of a number of other plays in this game. There was another one where Berrien was running down the sideline, and Favre tries to go to him when he knew that he had the Dolphins defense offside. That ball got picked off. That thing ended up being returned. He also tried to take a shot deep to Percy Harvin. The thing is, these are not guys who are going to go down there and contest for balls like Sidney Rice. There's a lot of buzz about trying to get Vincent Jackson in, but in the end, I think that the problems are much more deep than anybody really wants to admit. It's not just a matter of plugging one guy in who could play starting in week 5 and still would have to learn the Vikings' entire offense. It starts with the offensive line. There still are questions in the Vikings' secondary. Overall, the defense has played fantastic, but you can't let a team go and drive right down the field on you in the first drive of both games, and that's what's happened to the Vikings.
And so here's where we're at. We're 0-2 right now with the Vikings, a game against the Lions, and then a bye week, and then after the bye week, all hell breaks loose with that schedule. This is, like you said, 13% of teams since when?
Since 1990.
Have made the playoffs, and the Vikings right now are not looking like they have a much better chance when you look at the schedule and the chaos with this offense. It's hard to accept, but 0-2 is a huge hole right now for this team.
If there were ever a must-win, you always hesitate to use that cliche, but this is it. If they lose to the Detroit Lions, which I'm not ruling out. I wouldn't rule out anything with this Vikings team because they can't be trusted. Even the Lions team that probably is not going to have probably not going to have Matthew Stafford. Who knows? That could end up changing during the week. But the Lions have played relatively well. They hung with Philadelphia today. They obviously nearly beat the Bears in Chicago. I wouldn't put anything past the Vikings. They have to figure it out. They have to figure out ways to make plays, and it can't just be Brett Favre looking for Visanthe Shenko over and over in the red zone because guess what? Defenses have figured it out.
At least the Twins are headed to the playoffs. We know that. So, yeah. All right, he's Tom. I'm Phil. Catch you next time.